In the next 12 minutes, you're going to take the exact same cognitive test doctors use to detect early signs of dementia. Right now, millions of people are already showing early cognitive decline, and most of them have no idea it's happening. In this video, we're going to walk through the SLUMS assessment together, and I want you to test yourself as we go. By the end, you'll see how your brain performs in key areas like memory, attention, and reasoning. But this isn't just about getting a score, it's about understanding what that score could mean for your cognitive health. Ready to find out how your brain is doing? Healthcare professionals need reliable ways to measure how well someone's brain is functioning, especially when family members notice changes in memory, decision-making, or daily activities. The challenge is that formal neuropsychological testing can take hours and cost thousands of dollars, making it impractical for routine screening. They examine critical brain functions including attention, orientation, memory, calculation, reasoning, judgment, and language skills. The SLUMS assessment, which stands for St. Louis University Mental Status, was specifically developed to identify mild cognitive impairment that other tests might miss. Think of it as a focused snapshot of how your brain is working today across multiple cognitive domains. What makes SLUMS particularly valuable is its sensitivity to early changes that occur before major cognitive decline becomes obvious to family members or even to the individual experiencing them. Let's begin with the first section of the SLUMS test. I want you to answer these questions out loud as we go through them together. First, we test basic orientation to time and place. These questions establish whether essential awareness information remains intact. What day of the week is today? Take a moment and say your answer out loud. What year are we currently in? Again, speak your response. What state are we in right now? If you're watching from outside the United States, what country are you in? These orientation questions might seem almost insultingly simple, but they're testing fundamental brain functions. When cognitive decline begins, orientation to time often becomes affected before orientation to place. Someone might know they're at home but struggle to identify the correct day or month. This is where cognitive screening tools become invaluable. These brief assessments can detect the presence of cognitive problems and track changes over time. If you answered all three correctly, you've earned full points on this section. If you hesitated or felt uncertain about any answer, that's worth noting, though it doesn't necessarily indicate a problem. Now we move to immediate memory testing, which examines how well your brain can encode and temporarily store new information. I'm going to give you 5 objects to remember. Listen carefully, because I'll ask you to repeat them back immediately, and then again later in the assessment. Here are your 5 words: book, chair, ring, tree, phone. Now repeat those 5 words back to me out loud. If you missed any words, listen again. Book, chair, ring, tree, phone. This time, try to repeat all 5 words correctly. The goal is to get all 5 words memorized before we move forward. This immediate memory test reveals how effectively your brain processes and temporarily stores new verbal information. In normal aging, people might need to hear the list twice, but they should be able to repeat all 5 words accurately once they've heard them a few times. Keep those 5 words in mind. We'll be coming back to them later in unexpected ways. The next section tests practical reasoning and mental calculation through real-world scenarios. Here's your challenge. Imagine you have $100. You go to the store and buy a dozen eggs for $6 and a skateboard for $30. Take a moment to calculate. How much money did you spend total? And how much money do you have remaining? Work through this problem out loud. $6 for eggs plus $30 for the skateboard equals $36 spent. $100 minus $36 leaves $64 remaining. This type of problem tests multiple cognitive functions simultaneously. Your brain must hold the initial amount in memory, process 2 separate purchases, add them together, and then subtract from the original amount. It's not just math, it's working memory, attention, and practical reasoning combined. Many people find this more challenging than expected, not because the math is difficult, but because managing multiple pieces of information simultaneously requires significant cognitive resources. Now we test verbal fluency and category switching with a 1-minute challenge. This test examines how quickly you can access stored information and switch between different examples within a category. Your task is to name as many animals as you can in exactly 1 minute. I want you to start your timer right now and begin naming animals out loud. Go ahead and start. Your brain must search through semantic memory, avoid repetitions, and maintain focus for the full minute. Most people with normal cognitive function can name 15 to 20 animals in 1 minute. The specific number matters less than the pattern. Did you start strong and maintain pace throughout? Did you switch between different animal types, farm animals, wild animals, pets, zoo animals? Or did you get stuck repeating similar types? The flow of words and ability to switch categories often reveals more about cognitive function than the total number achieved. Remember those 5 objects from earlier? Now comes the real memory test. Without looking back or thinking about when I mentioned them, tell me the 5 words I asked you to memorize at the beginning of this assessment. Take your time and say them out loud. What were the 5 objects? The correct answer is book, chair, ring, tree, phone. This delayed recall test is often the most revealing part of the entire assessment. It shows whether information was successfully transferred from short-term to longer-term storage, and whether you can retrieve it after your attention has been focused on other tasks. Many people are surprised by how challenging this becomes after being distracted by other mental tasks. This mirrors real-life situations where you might struggle to remember information after being interrupted or focused on other activities. Now we test attention and working memory through number reversal tasks. I'm going to give you a series of numbers, and I want you to repeat them back to me in reverse order. Let's start simple. 5, 3. You should say 3, 5. Now try this sequence. 2, 7, 1. Repeat those numbers backward. The correct response is 1, 7, 2. One more. 4, 1, 5, 2. Give me those numbers in reverse order. You should have said 2, 5, 1, 4. This task requires you to hold numbers in your working memory while simultaneously manipulating them mentally. It's testing attention, concentration, and the ability to perform mental operations on temporarily stored information. Difficulty with this task often appears early in cognitive decline, as working memory systems are particularly vulnerable to age-related changes and neurological conditions. The next challenge tests visual spatial skills and executive function through clock drawing. I want you to draw a clock face. If you have paper and pen handy, follow along. If not, visualize this carefully in your mind. First, draw a circle for the clock face. Then place numbers around the circle to mark the hour positions. 12 at the top, 6 at the bottom, 3 on the right, and 9 on the left, with the remaining numbers positioned appropriately. Now set the hands to show 10 minutes to 7 o'clock. Think carefully about where those hands should point. The hour hand should be slightly before the 7, and the minute hand should point to the 10, representing 50 minutes past the hour, or 10 minutes to 7. Clock drawing reveals problems with planning, spatial organization, and understanding of time concepts. Even people with good memory might struggle with this task if executive function is compromised. Now we test basic visual processing and comparative reasoning. Imagine 3 shapes in front of you: a large circle, a small triangle, and a medium square. Your tasks are, first, identify which shape you would place an X inside, if I asked you to put an X in the triangle. Second, tell me which of these 3 shapes is the largest. The answers seem obvious. You'd put the X in the triangle, and the large circle is the biggest shape. But this test examines attention to detail, instruction following, and basic comparative reasoning. When cognitive function is impaired, people sometimes miss these details or become confused by simple multi-step instructions, even when the individual components seem straightforward. Our final test combines attention, comprehension, and complex memory through story recall. Listen carefully to this story, as I'll ask you specific questions afterward. Sarah was a very successful business analyst. She brought excellent returns for her clients in the stock market. She then met Michael, a charming lawyer. She married him and had 2 children. They lived in Denver. She took time off work to raise her children at home. When the children became teenagers, she returned to her business career. She and Michael lived happily ever after. Now answer these questions. What was the woman's name? What was her profession? When did she return to work? What city did they live in? The correct answers are Sarah, business analyst, when the children were teenagers, and Denver. This complex task tests sustained attention during the story, comprehension of narrative details, and ability to recall specific information embedded within a longer passage. Now that you've completed the SLUMS assessment, let's talk about what your performance means. Most adults with normal cognitive function will miss 1 to 3 points on this assessment, and that's completely normal. The goal isn't perfection, it's identifying patterns that might indicate cognitive changes worth investigating further. If you struggled with multiple sections, particularly delayed memory recall or working memory tasks, it might be worth discussing cognitive screening with your healthcare provider. However, remember that many factors can affect performance, including stress, fatigue, medication side effects, or simply being unfamiliar with testing situations. The real value of tools like SLUMS lies in their ability to detect subtle changes over time and guide decisions about whether more comprehensive evaluation might be beneficial. Cognitive assessment tools like SLUMS provide valuable insights into brain function across many situations. Whether you aced this assessment or found certain sections challenging, understanding how your brain performs today gives you a baseline for monitoring future changes. If you found this brain test helpful and want to learn more about protecting your cognitive health, please subscribe to our channel. In the description below, you'll find links to my comprehensive dementia caregiving book and free resources including caregiver support guides, safety checklists, and practical strategies for managing challenging behaviors. For your next video, I recommend watching our discussion on sleep disturbances in dementia, which explores how cognitive changes affect rest patterns and impact both patients and caregivers. You might also find value in our video covering wandering behaviors in dementia patients, which provides essential safety strategies and prevention techniques for families dealing with this challenging behavior. Remember, taking care of your cognitive health is one of the most important investments you can make in your future quality of life.